Good morning, you guys. It's my first morning back on the farm after being out of town for the weekend, and it's that time of year where like everything is growing super fast, so I feel like everything is different, and I'm going out here to check on the gardens. Figured I'd bring you guys with me. These little guys are definitely looking different. Super fluffy and getting big. I'm starting to be able to tell that some of these little chicks are roosters. Like this one right here is definitely a rooster, which I can tell based on the fact that he's developing a comb and he's getting a little bit of hackle feathers around his neck. But sometimes you can really tell with their stance. They tend to be a little more aggressive even when they're very young, and they tend to be a little less fluffy on the back end. So some of these are really taking the shape of hens. We got our chicks from Murray McMurray Hatchery, and some of the ones that we ordered were straight run, which means that they're not sexed. So you get some hens and some roosters, or I guess at this age they're called pullets and cockerels, but either way, some boys, some girls. Hey, go! Sit up. Goats aren't supposed to lay like that. Someone told me once when I got goats that goats never lay on their sides, and if they do, they're dead. It's obviously not true. It's really not true, because there are plenty of times that my goats are laying on their sides, and the alpacas too. Someone told me that about alpacas. If you see your alpaca laying on its side in the field, it's probably dead. But they do that, especially on a sunny day. They like sunbathing. But every single time I see it, I'm like, are you dead? What do you think, Will?
It looks beautiful.
It does look beautiful. You did a great job while I was gone. Thank you.
I removed a lot of grass.
Yeah, this looks amazing. So we're getting the onions up today. Some of them look pretty rough on top, but since I'm just dicing these and freezing or drying them, it's fine. If I were trying to save these, I would have wanted to harvest them before they started to break down like this, but they'd all gone to seed. The tops got knocked back after a late freeze, and when they started growing again, they thought they were on their second year, so they all went straight to seed. So my onions didn't go as well as I'd hoped, but I'll have plenty to cut. I'm going to dice them, freeze them, dry them, and I still got a good deal of food. If any of them look like this, and it's obvious that we're not going to get really much of anything from it, we'll put it in a separate place, and we'll take it out and feed it to like the chickens, the big chickens. These little ones don't know what to do with them yet. I've tried to throw them some scraps and they don't understand, but the big chickens will eat them. This is one of those great examples that even if things don't go how you hoped, they're not necessarily a complete failure. Like, there's still food to be had, because this certainly didn't go how I'd hoped. But
You said they won't store properly?
No, they won't store properly. Some of them might store, but once they've gone to seed, once the main stem is flowering like that, it's already penetrated down into the bulb. So even if you dry it, it'll rot from the inside. You really want to get them before they go to seed. Will was commenting on sometimes I pull onions up and I eat them raw out here. I don't like the red ones or the white ones. It's the yellow ones that I'll eat raw. Those real sweet ones. They're so good. Yeah, it definitely does make my breath stink all day. That's for sure. And it's kind of spicy. I did just brush my teeth, so I'm not going to do it right now. But there have been several times that I'll walk past here. I'll pull up one of those yellow onions and just walk down looking through the garden, eating it raw.
You'll walk by and Noah will be like, was Jess eating an onion?
Yep. Some of these though look real good. I'm gonna come over here real quick and check on these potatoes. So when your potatoes flower, you can start looking to harvest them about 2 weeks later. And I have a known problem here with voles. There are a lot of rodents out in this field. Because of that, I'm keeping an eye on these because I don't want the voles to get to my potatoes before I do. Now these plants still look really good, but these are starting to die back. So that's pretty much my signal that it's time to harvest. They bloomed a couple weeks ago, and now, you know, they look pretty ready to pull. So let's see what we got here. The way I plant potatoes is I pretty much build up some soil, either compost or this was just the topsoil that was hilled up. And then just sort of nestle the potato down in, the seed potato down into it, and then cover it up with straw. So when you pull this back, you see, here's some potatoes. All right, well, we got some food here. All right, so some of these are all still a little bit on the small side. I actually really love potatoes at this size. They're so flavorful and the skin is so soft. So we can go ahead and start harvesting some of these, but more likely what I'll do, because as you see here, there's still a lot that are really small. Now once they start dying back like this, you won't get just a ton more growth, but you will get some. So probably what I'll do this week is harvest these as we need them. We're about to start eating a lot of potatoes like this because there is still growth. You can tell here we've planted a few different varieties because these were planted about the same time, and like these are dying back and these aren't. It's just a different kind. And these, we'll start eating these now. We'll start pulling these now. But I won't do like a big sweep of a harvest where I get everything out probably until another like week or so, end of the week. Let them grow a little bit more just to see, because I might get a little bit more volume. So I do want to clarify here something that I'm not doing, just in case you're growing onions. I don't want you to follow me on this and then it mess up. So I'm pulling these onions all off. We're cutting the tops off of them and putting them in this bucket. The reason I am doing it that way is because of the way that these grew, and that I don't think they're going to store well because of the fact that they went to seed. I'm just going to go ahead and cut them, freeze them, or dry them. Now let's say everything had gone to plan, I would be doing this differently. What we would be doing, as soon as the tops of the onions started to brown, I would know they were ready to be pulled, and I would pull them all out, and I would probably just lay them, if it's dry, I could lay them on top of the dry mulch here for a day or two before putting them somewhere covered where they can just dry out. It's called curing. Depending on where you live, you want to keep them out of the rain. I like to do it in my high tunnel. You could do it on a porch, garage, somewhere where you can lay them out in one row. Ideally, you want them to be able to have air from the bottom and the top. So if you have like a cattle panel that you can lay across some sawhorses or something like that, you can hang them. Either way, you want to let them dry for about 2 weeks until those outside skins are real papery and they feel more like an onion you would get at the store, because those have been dried and cured. And at that point, you can store them in like a cool, dry place and they'll last for several months. I'm not doing that with these because these aren't going to last for several months anyway, so I'm just going to go ahead and process them in the kitchen to a point of being usable. Probably going to dice and freeze a lot of them. Go ahead and probably dice or put them through the food processor, put them in the dehydrator and make like a powder. And that's not ideal again, but that's me dealing with the circumstances that I have and how these grew. And still making the most of it so I can get a harvest. I would hate for you guys to have perfect onions that grew really well and not cure them and then them rot because you saw me not cure them. Alright guys, it's later in the evening. I got Amy from the airport. She is taking a much deserved rest because their flight left in the wee hours and she just flew and had a layover in Atlanta with 2 young children, so that'll wear you out. Now I'm walking over here to check in on Maya and show you guys what he's up to. So our property is like somewhat rectangular. It's actually like more narrow up at the top of the street and gets wider down here. And our mobile home is actually in the back corner of our property. And we've had the pigs up along that street around the pond. And we've now processed all of the extra hogs, and we're down to we have a couple more feeders that we're raising, and we have our breeding stock, which is currently 2 old spot females and 1 Mangalitsa boar. We're working on kind of like a mix that will be maybe faster growing than the mangoes have been, but still hopefully have some of the positive traits of the mangoes. Anyway, we are currently getting stuff set down over here. Now this is Papa T's property. Papa T and Mimi, Lisa and Terry are our neighbors, and we've been working with them on some things. And they've got a lot of land right next to us, and they're letting us put these pigs to pasture them through the woods. We don't have a lot of woods on our property, so this is nice to offer the pigs some shade. They'll help clear out the underbrush. And so that's what Maya and the guys are over here working on today, and I'm gonna walk over here. So we had the pigs up around the pond, and they tore that up, and they unearthed a lot of the rocks and the different things were in there, and we've done a sweep. It is filling back up with weeds now, which is not a concern to us. But that's where we're gonna do an orchard. So right now what we're gonna do is move our ducks up on the pond, and we're gonna start dumping wood chips in there to spread out, just to kind of help build the soil, suppress the weeds some, and prepare that area to plant our orchard out in once the heat breaks. We'd kind of wanted to do that in the spring, but really the fall is the best time to plant fruit trees here. The main thing with trees is when they're not rooted yet, they need constant water, and so they would really struggle if we put them in the ground right now. All right, so here is one of the mama pigs and the manga boar. They've been in together for about, I think, 6 weeks. I'd have to look and see for sure, but she wasn't really giving him the time of day at first, so I'm not sure that she's bred yet. Now Maya ordered these shade cloths from Grower Solution, which is where we've gotten all our high tunnel stuff from and our shade cloth stuff. And he fixed it on the side here to give them a place to get out of the sun. Now this is shaded, so they're not going to need it quite as much, but you know, it's important for them to not just get baked in the sun. We want them to be comfortable. And this can be moved to new ground daily. So you're going to move these guys around over here under the trees?
Yeah, give them some extra shade. We gotta stay.
It's fine.
We gotta stay close to our water source.
Yeah.
They probably have 2 days of water per water.
So you fill it, you fill that back up.
Yeah.
And you can get a hose over here, is that what you're doing?
I've got one run off of the Papa T's well. We can't go that real deep into the woods because I don't have enough hose.
But you can kind of stay on the edge.
But I could go that direction and then move it 2 times that way and then bring them back to the beginning to get back to the hose to fill the water up. Honestly, Noah suggested it, and I've been thinking about the same thing. I'm considering getting an IBC tote that's clean, never been used, and filling it up with water and having it on a pallet where I can pick it up and move 500 gallons of water around and just put a spout with a hose on it and just so we could just drive that out here, fill these up, maybe hit up the chickens if they're out in the field. Cool. And not have to run hoses out there until we get the rest of the water infrastructure
It's a good idea.
Eventually, the end goal is to have more permanent rotational pig paddocks through these woods over here. We needed to get it cleaned up so we could actually build what we needed to build.
What are you talking about building?
Running electric wire, off of just rebar and insulators, but just having them. But I needed to get these two, especially because they've never been around electric fencing trained. I needed some time to get this cleaned up so we could know where exactly we're going to put it. And so these pins that Ben Holler built, I think eventually we'll probably use one for a sheep ram, but in the meantime we're going to use them to train them to hot wire and keep them contained out here in the woods while we get the more permanent system set up.
I think that's great. And you just push these because they're on wheels.
Yeah.
And you can move them
They move pretty easily. Even with that big water on there, it still moves around pretty easy.
Very cool. I'm hitching a ride back with Sweet Maya. Alright guys, yet another video that I forgot to finish while I was shooting it. But I couldn't end this without saying thank you for hanging out with me today. God bless you. Until next time.